Imagine being engineered in a cold lab, used like a disposable tool, and branded as a monster by the very people who created you. This isn't the story of a villain. This is the tragic tale of the most mistreated dinosaur in the entire Jurassic franchise. While Rexy was cheered by millions and the raptors became icons, one creature was injected, experimented on, and thrown away like garbage on an island crawling with predators. This is the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park III, and his life was hell from the very first breath. Unlike the celebrated dinosaurs of Jurassic Park, the Spinosaurus wasn't born to be a star. He was an illegal creation by Dr. Henry Wu on Isla Sorna, a dark side project that never received the love or care given to others. While Rexy and the Velociraptors were treated as main attractions with spacious enclosures, constant monitoring, and dedicated veterinary teams, the Spinosaurus lived in the shadows of the laboratory from day one. His existence was marked by the cold silence of experimentation rooms and the sterile glow of fluorescent lights overhead. He was kept in restricted captivity, hidden from the world, subjected to endless procedures, injections to test his physical limits and genetic stability, blood samples extracted for analysis, behavioral observation under extreme stress conditions. He was data, a biological tool to be used and discarded when no longer useful. The scientists saw him as a source of information, nothing more. And once they extracted what they needed, he lost all value. There were no handlers who knew his temperament, no enrichment activities to keep him mentally stable, no care for his well-being whatsoever, just cold documentation and clinical detachment. While other dinosaurs were carefully transported to Isla Nublar with protective measures, sedation protocols, and specialized equipment, the Spinosaurus was simply left behind on Sorna, abandoned in the wild, as if he had never mattered at all. This initial rejection shaped everything he would become, the loneliness he endured, the distrust he developed, the rage that would simmer beneath the surface for years. He wasn't a monster by nature or genetic design. He was a survivor marked by human betrayal from the moment he opened his eyes. And that abandonment would haunt him for the rest of his life. Thrown into the wilderness while still young, the Spinosaurus was forced into a hostile world where the law was survival of the fittest, and he wasn't ready. At roughly 23 feet long at this stage, he was large for a sub-adult, but insignificant compared to the established predators of Sorna. Alone, with no hunting experience and zero knowledge of the territory, he had to learn fast or die trying. He needed to understand the language of the forest, the warning calls of herbivores signaling danger nearby, the tracks of rival carnivores marking their territories, the safe water sources that wouldn't get him killed. Every day was a brutal lesson in survival. Every night, a test of willpower and endurance. But he didn't just face hunger. He faced loneliness, a rare and devastating condition for an animal that should theoretically dominate the top of the food chain. No pack to rely on, no family to teach him, no guidance from experienced hunters. Just him against an entire ecosystem that didn't want him there. Slowly, through trial and error, he discovered his advantages. His devastating jaw strength, designed to crush bone and tear through flesh with ease. His ability to move seamlessly between land and water, giving him access to prey that other predators couldn't reach. His surprising endurance that allowed him to outlast opponents in extended pursuits and confrontations. He learned to avoid unnecessary conflicts, to pick his battles wisely and strategically. But he also learned never to back down when directly challenged. Over the months and years, he didn't just survive the island, he mastered it. He became the apex predator, the undisputed king of Sorna's food chain. This period of solitary struggle forged him into something truly dangerous, a skilled and calculating hunter with deep-seated distrust toward any other creature, especially humans, the ones who created him, tortured him, and threw him away. Years passed since humans had vanished from his life, but the Spinosaurus never forgot. When helicopters returned to Isla Sorna, landing directly in his territory, something inside him awakened, and it wasn't hunger, it was memory, the smell of fuel and metal, the mechanical sounds cutting through the jungle, the voices echoing through the forest. They ignited something primal and deeply personal, a hatred that had been waiting for this moment. The plane scene in Jurassic Park III didn't start as a blind attack. It began with calculated observation, almost like recognition. He watched the rescue team and armed mercenaries from the shadows, studying their movements. In every human face, he saw the same scientists who once imprisoned him, injected him, and abandoned him to die. When the search for Eric Kirby led the humans deeper into his domain, he finally decided to act. The bullets that hit his body barely fazed him. If anything, they confirmed that these creatures represented the same threat as before. The pursuit of the plane wasn't about feeding. It was about destruction. Each piece of shattered aircraft was a strike against the world that rejected it. When he killed Cooper, it wasn't with the cold efficiency of a hunter. It was with the ferocity of someone settling an old score. And even after that, he didn't retreat to feed. He persisted relentlessly. He broke through fences. He hunted survivors across land and through water with determination that went far beyond basic survival instincts. This wasn't just a beast following instincts anymore. This was a conscious individual driven by rage, willing to risk everything, and that rage was about to collide with the island's most dangerous resident. The confrontation that would forever define the Spinosaurus's reputation wasn't planned. It was a clash of titans born from chaos. While pursuing the humans through dense jungle, he came face to face with Bull, an imposing Tyrannosaurus Rex who saw the human intruders in his territory as easy prey, even though he was already feeding on a fresh kill. What followed wasn't a fight over food or territorial dominance. It was a battle loaded with symbolism. On one side, the legitimate king of Isla Nublar, the classic representative of raw power and prehistoric supremacy. On the other, a genetically modified creation, a living product of human arrogance and scientific overreach. The Spinosaurus didn't win through brute strength alone. He was strategic and calculated. He used his powerful claws to destabilize his opponent, to create openings and exploit weaknesses, and in one crucial moment, he delivered a fatal bite to the T-Rex's neck, snapping it with devastating force. But this act wasn't random or opportunistic. Every movement of the Spinosaurus overflowed with accumulated rage. It was as if in that Tyrannosaurus, he saw everything that had made him suffer. The victory cemented his status as Sorna's apex predator. But after the fight, he was wounded, exhausted, and still utterly alone. While fans debated whether to hate or admire him, the Spinosaurus carried on, bearing not just the weight of victory, but the burden of being forever remembered as a villain and a killer. Shortly after the events of Jurassic Park III, the Spinosaurus lived a brief period of freedom on Isla Sorna, but his peace was shattered when Mantah Corp located and captured him, transferring him to their private island. And this place wasn't a sanctuary or conservation site. It was a high-tech prison disguised as a research facility. The Spinosaurus, who had already known the pain of captivity in his youth, was subjected to even more inhumane treatment, the total loss of his autonomy. The researchers implanted a remote control device directly into his brain, allowing them to command his movements like a puppet on strings. Imagine the agony of being fully conscious, able to see, hear, and feel everything around you, but having absolutely zero control over your own body. His instincts probably screamed at him to flee, to attack his captors, to rest when exhausted, but his limbs simply wouldn't respond to his own will. He was forced to participate in staged fights against other dinosaurs for entertainment and research data. He served as transportation for Mantah Corp employees. He was used as a hunting tool to chase down young Camp Cretaceous survivors who tried to escape the facility. Every command followed was an act of violence against his own being. Every imposed movement, a humiliation that cut deeper than any physical wound. In certain moments, you could see his anguish at being imprisoned inside himself. He was simultaneously a monster and a victim, forced to inflict fear and destruction while living through his own nightmare. Unable to roar his own rage, unable to choose his own prey, unable to sleep when his body desperately needed rest. Just a tool in human hands, again. Freedom finally came when the mind control device was destroyed during the chaos on Mantah Corp Island, but the relief lasted mere seconds. The moment the Spinosaurus regained control of his own body, he found himself facing a nightmare scenario. Not one, but two Tyrannosaurus Rexys, Big Edie and Little Edie, advancing toward him with pure hatred in their eyes for what he'd been forced to do under mind control. Exhausted after years of manipulation and forced battles, the Spinosaurus had no time to recover. The fight was brutal and unfair from the start, 2 against 1. Big Edie, larger and more experienced, grabbed his neck with crushing force, slamming him repeatedly against a massive tree trunk. In one final act of dominance, she threw him to the ground with devastating power, making him roll onto his own dorsal sail with enough force to potentially shatter bone. Wounded, bleeding, and humiliated once again, the Spinosaurus had no choice but to retreat. He ran into the dense jungle, his blood trail marking his desperate escape through the vegetation. And since that day, no human has ever seen him again. At least, that's what we know. There was no body recovered, no confirmation of his death. Some believe he found an isolated place deep in the island's interior to die in peace, far from everything and everyone who had hurt him. Others speculate that Being a born survivor with an unbreakable will to live, he may have resisted his injuries. His disappearance marked the tragic end of a life defined by trauma, betrayal, and unrelenting suffering, a life that never truly knew freedom or kindness. The hope of seeing the Jurassic Park III Spinosaurus again has always been a desire among fans, especially with the announcement of Jurassic World Rebirth, where leaks suggested a Spinosaurus would appear in the film. Many believed this new chapter, meant for exploring the most dangerous dinosaurs, would be the perfect setting for his return. However, what we saw was the appearance of not one, but 4 new Spinosaurus specimens, genetically distinct and much closer to the real animal scientifically. This narrative choice feels like a farewell to the Jurassic Park III character. Perhaps the creators felt his story was complete, an arc of suffering that didn't need to be reopened, or maybe they preserved the mystery of his fate intentionally, leaving room for imagination and hope. After all, not showing his body kept the possibility alive. If he's still out there, he'd be very old now, marked by physical and psychological scars, seeking only isolation and peace. And that was the hell of the Spinosaurus, a dinosaur that could have been legendary, but was broken by the same world that created him. If you don't want to end up forgotten like he was, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this story. I'm kidding, of course, but seriously, comment below if you know a more tragic story than this one. I doubt you will.